Step into the darkness with witness shadows. Every shadow has a witness, and every witness has a story they've been too afraid to tell. Welcome to Witness Shadows, your ultimate destination for true horror stories and disturbing stories that linger long after the screen goes black. Whether you're looking for scary stories to sleep to, or chilling stalking stories that make you double-check your locks, our collection of true stories is curated to haunt your subconscious. The walls started breathing, and something inside knew who. I honestly thought the job would be simple. That's the worst part of looking back on it now. There was nothing dramatic about the beginning. No storm rolling in over the hills, no one grabbing my arm and warning me not to go near the place. None of that. It was just a bit of wiring work in a village outside Matlock, the sort of job I'd done loads of times before. A temporary stay, decent money, quiet area, and a house I was told had been empty long enough that the owner wanted someone on site while the electrics were checked and the upstairs circuits brought back on. That was it. On paper, Blackthorn House was just old, inconvenient, and too far from anywhere decent to get a takeaway after 9. I got there just after 4:30, and the first thing that struck me was how tucked away it was. Not isolated enough to feel dramatic, just wrong in a quieter sort of way. The lane narrowed into a strip of cracked tarmac, with hedges pressing in from both sides, and the village seemed to stop short of the house on purpose, like the place had been edged out of the rest of the world. There were cottages lower down, with hanging baskets and little pebble drives, and that usual sort of Peak District neatness, and then right at the edge of it all, up a slight rise behind a tangle of bare shrubs, there it was. Blackthorn House looked as though it had been left standing out of stubbornness. 3 stories if you counted the attic rooms. Brick darkened by years of weather, tall thin windows with some of the panes gone milky at the edges, a sagging porch roof, and the front door, a deep red once maybe, had blistered and faded until it looked like old dried blood under the peeling paint. I remember sitting in the van for a second longer than I needed to, engine off, keys still in my hand, just looking at it and thinking the place had a face to it. Not in some dramatic haunted house way, just something in the proportions. The windows too narrow, the porch too drawn in, the black iron knocker hung too low, as if the whole front of it had settled into a look without meaning to. I told myself not to be stupid and got on with unloading. The owner, a bloke named Adrian Bell, had left the key in a lockbox nailed to the side wall. He was already in Spain by then, according to the note he'd emailed me. Family property, inherited, didn't live there, wanted it made habitable before deciding what to do with it. Sell it, maybe. Let it. Didn't matter to me. I was there to check the wiring, sort the fuse board, replace what needed replacing, and stay put until the surveyor came through later in the week. Even the first few minutes inside were only strange in ways old houses often are. Cold, obviously. That stale, sealed up sort of cold that sits in your clothes. Dust in the hallway, faint marks where pictures used to hang. One umbrella stand by the stairs with no umbrellas in it, and a single cracked walking stick leaned inside like someone had just forgotten it. It smelled of old timber, damp plaster, and something else I couldn't place at first. Not rot, not mold, something sweeter, faint, a powdery smell, almost floral. I stood there listening for a moment. That sounds silly now, but empty houses have a sound to them. Even when they're quiet, they creak in little harmless ways, pipes ticking, floorboards adjusting, the kind of thing you stop noticing after 10 minutes. Blackthorn House didn't sound empty. It sounded like it was holding itself still. I called out once, "Hello?" more out of habit than anything, and my own voice came back at me oddly flat from the stairwell. No answer. I made myself laugh, shut the door behind me, and started bringing my kit in. 2 bags, toolbox, overnight case, kettle, extension leads, and a crate with some food because the village shop looked tiny and I didn't fancy paying £4 for a pint of milk. Every time I stepped back out to the van, I had this odd feeling that I was leaving someone behind in the hallway. Not that I'd seen anyone. Nothing like that. Just that irritating little pressure between the shoulder blades, the one that makes you turn around to check. But then everything seemed fine, like nothing would happen. I did the practical things first. Checked the kitchen. Checked the sockets in the front room. Opened 2 windows to clear the smell. Sent Becca, my sister, a photo of the place with the message, "If I get murdered here, tell people I knew this was a bad idea." She sent back about 6 laughing faces and asked if it had ghosts or just asbestos. Normal, ordinary, exactly the sort of tone I kept forcing myself back into. There was a sitting room at the front, a dining room behind it, and a kitchen that looked onto a patch of overgrown garden ringed by a low stone wall. Beyond that was a dark line of trees, thin at first, and then thicker farther back where the land dipped. Not a forest exactly, just enough woodland to make the back of the property feel cut off. There were old apple trees choked with ivy and one broken bird table leaning sideways like it had tried to get away and failed. Upstairs was where the house started feeling wrong. Not because anything happened straight away, because of the way it was laid out. The first floor landing ran longer than I expected, with a narrow corridor peeling off to the back and 3 bedroom doors on one side, one on the other, all painted the same dull cream. The carpet runner was worn thin in the middle, and there was a stain near the far skirting board, shaped oddly like a handprint dragged sideways. That could have been anything. Old spill, rust from a pipe. I knew that. I'm telling you now because it stuck with me later. One room had been turned into storage. Another was mostly bare except for a wardrobe with one door hanging open. The third had the remains of what was clearly once a child's nursery, faded wallpaper with little rabbits and crescent moons, built-in shelves too low to be for adults, a small wooden chair in the corner, and hanging beside the window, fixed into the wall on an old brass plate, was a bell pull with a frayed cream cord. That was where the sweet smell was strongest. Lavender, that's what it was. Damp lavender, old and stale like it had seeped into the wallpaper decades ago and never gone. I stood in the doorway longer than I meant to. There was nothing in the room apart from dust, a covered shape under a yellow sheet, and that little chair. But I had the strongest sense that I'd interrupted something. Not movement, exactly. More like arriving in the middle of a silence. I didn't step all the way inside. I wish I could say that was instinct, or that part of me knew. Truth is, I was just tired from the drive and wanted a cup of tea. I marked the room in my head as one to come back to and carried on to the box room at the rear where I planned to sleep because it was the smallest and easiest to warm up. I'd just finished laying my chargers out downstairs when I heard the front latch click. Just once. It was clear enough that I stopped moving straight away. Not a pipe, not a floorboard. The sound of metal shifting in a door that hadn't been touched since I locked it. I looked toward the hallway and waited. A few seconds later it came again. A small, deliberate lift and drop, like someone on the other side had tried the handle gently first, then a little harder. I actually felt relieved at first. Ridiculous, really, but relief was exactly it. Some passerby, the owner back unexpectedly, a neighbor come round to ask if I was settling in, something normal. I went to the door and opened it quickly. Nobody. The lane lay empty from one end to the other. No footsteps retreating, no gate swinging, nothing. The hedges were still. The evening had that thin, cold light you get just before proper dark in autumn, and the only sound was a rook somewhere beyond the trees. I stepped onto the porch and looked left and right, even checked the side path in case someone had moved off to the back garden. There was no one there, not a soul. What I didn't expect was the feeling that hit me then. Not exactly fear, not yet. More like embarrassment curdling into unease. Because standing there on that porch with nobody around and that red door open behind me, I suddenly had the sense that I hadn't been hearing someone trying to get in. I'd heard something checking whether I was already inside. I shut the door a bit harder than I meant to and slid the bolt across. Then I did what people always do at the start of stories like this. I made excuses for it. Old mechanism, loose latch, house shifting in the cold. I even tested it a couple of times myself and got nowhere near the same sound. But still, I was determined not to let my head run away with me. So I made tea, ate a sandwich standing up at the kitchen counter, unpacked my torch, sent Becca another message saying the village was dead and the house was depressing but manageable. And for half an hour after that, honestly, everything did seem fine. The light outside thinned to gray. The kitchen windows turned black. Somewhere deep in the house, high above me, A floorboard gave one slow creak as though somebody had put their weight onto it carefully. I froze with the mug halfway to my mouth. Then silence again. At that point, I still told myself the same thing. Old house, old timbers, nothing more. But I didn't go back upstairs after that. Not until I absolutely had to. I didn't go upstairs again that night until I had no choice. That's something I've thought about a lot since. How quickly your instincts start trying to guide you even before your brain catches up. I told myself I was just tired, that I'd check the rest of the house properly in the morning when it was light, when everything would look smaller and less loaded. But really, I just didn't want to be up there alone after dark. So I stayed in the kitchen longer than I needed to. Then the front room. Then back to the kitchen again, like there was some invisible boundary I didn't want to cross. I put the radio on low, just for a bit of background noise, something human to fill the gaps. It kept losing signal though, little bursts of static that made me jump more than the silence did. By the time I finally went upstairs, it was just past midnight. I remember checking the time because I had that stupid thought. If nothing's happened by midnight, you're fine. Like the house was working to a schedule. The landing felt colder than before. Not dramatically, just enough that you noticed it straight away, like stepping into a room where someone's left a window open. I paused at the top of the stairs, listening again. Same as earlier. No movement, no voices, just that heavy held silence. All the doors were closed. That's what I noticed first. I was certain, completely certain, that I'd left at least 2 of them open when I'd been up there earlier. The nursery door, definitely. The storage room too. I even had a clear image in my head of the wardrobe door inside it hanging open at an angle. Now everything sat flush along the corridor, each door neatly shut like they'd been lined up for inspection. I stood there for a few seconds, trying to work it out. Maybe you close them without thinking. Maybe there's a drop. Maybe the floor's uneven and they've swung on their own. All reasonable, all possible. None of it felt right. I moved slowly along the corridor, hand trailing along the wall, counting the doors without meaning to. 1, 2, 3. The nursery was the last on the right. I stopped outside it and listened again. Nothing. I pushed it open gently. The room was exactly as I'd left it. Same dust, same sheet over the shape in the corner, same little chair angled toward the wall. The bell cord hung beside the window, completely still. I actually felt a bit of tension leave my shoulders at that point. It looked harmless, dead even, like a room that had been forgotten properly. I stepped inside this time. The floor creaked under my weight, normal, predictable, grounding. I moved toward the window, wiped a clear patch in the glass with my sleeve, and looked out over the back garden. The trees beyond had turned into a solid black mass now. No detail, just shape. There was no wind, not a single branch moving. That's when I heard it, a soft metallic ting. It took me a second to place it. Not loud, not sharp, just clear, too clear. I turned slowly. The bell pull was swaying, not much, just a gentle side-to-side motion. But there was no mistaking it. The cord was moving, and at the top of it, the little brass fitting was trembling slightly, catching what little light there was in the room. I stared at it, waiting for it to stop. It didn't. It kept moving in that same small arc like something had just let go of it. I actually walked over and put my hand on the cord to steady it, half expecting it to feel warm or damp or wrong in some way. It felt normal, cold, slightly rough, nothing unusual. I held it still for a few seconds, then let go. It didn't move again. I laughed, properly laughed out loud because I needed to break whatever that moment had been building. Loose fitting, I said to no one. That's all it is. And for a second, I believed it. I turned to leave the room. That's when it rang again, louder this time. A sharp, deliberate ding that made my chest tighten so quickly it actually hurt. I froze in the doorway, not turning back straight away. I don't know why. Maybe I didn't want to confirm it. Maybe I thought if I didn't look, I could still pretend it hadn't happened properly. But then it rang a third time, slow, measured, like someone testing it. I turned. The cord was still, completely still. No sway, no movement, nothing. And that's when I felt it for the first time. Not just unease, not just nerves, but something colder, heavier. The sense that I wasn't alone in that room anymore. Not because I could see anything, because something had just done something for me. something that didn't need to move the cord at all to make the sound. I backed out of the room without taking my eyes off it, closed the door, stood there in the corridor, breathing too fast, telling myself to calm down. "I'm just tired," I said quietly. "That's all this is." The words sounded thin. I started back toward the stairs, forcing myself to walk normally. No rushing, no running. Just get downstairs, lock up, sleep it off, and laugh about it in the morning. I just passed the second door when I heard something behind me. Not the bell this time. A sound so soft I almost missed it. Humming, low, unsteady, like someone trying to remember a tune they'd forgotten halfway through. I stopped. Every instinct told me not to turn around. That's the thing people don't talk about enough. It's not bravery that makes you look. It's pressure. The feeling that if you don't check, whatever's behind you will get closer. So I turned. The corridor was empty. All the doors still shut. No movement, but the air felt different, thicker somehow. Like the space itself had shifted slightly. I stood there, waiting. Nothing. I told myself I'd imagined it, that it was the radio downstairs bleeding up through the floor, distorted by the old wiring. That was a good explanation, a solid one. I held on to it. I took another step. The humming started again, closer this time, right behind me. I spun round so fast I nearly lost my footing. Still nothing, just the line of doors, the dim light, the narrow stretch of carpet running down the center. I realized then that my hands were shaking, properly shaking. I hadn't noticed when it started. "Right," I said louder this time. "That's enough." I didn't care how it sounded anymore. Talking out loud made it feel more real, more controlled, like I was still the one in charge of what was happening. I turned and walked straight for the stairs, didn't look back again. I made it halfway down before I heard it one last time. Not humming, not the bell, a single small sound, a breath, right at the top of the stairs behind me. I stopped on the step, every muscle locking up, my heart hammering so hard I could hear it in my ears. And then, silence. Nothing followed, no footsteps, no voice, no movement, just that same heavy, waiting quiet. I went the rest of the way down a lot faster than I meant to, locked every door, checked the windows twice, turned every light on downstairs and left them that way. I even dragged one of the kitchen chairs into the hallway and wedged it under the front handle like that would do anything. Then I sat on the sofa, fully dressed, staring at the staircase, telling myself I wasn't afraid, telling myself there was an explanation, telling myself that in the morning everything would make sense. What I didn't realize then, what I really didn't understand, was that something in that house had already figured out exactly how far it could push me. And it had only just started. I don't think I slept at all. Not properly. I must have drifted in and out at some point because I remember the lights still being on, the television flickering through channels I hadn't chosen, and that horrible half-dream state where you're not sure if your eyes are open or not. But I never fully relaxed. My body stayed tense the entire time, like it was waiting to be told to move. When morning finally came, it didn't feel like relief. It felt thinner. The light that crept through the windows wasn't warm or reassuring. It was pale and flat, like it had no weight to it. The kind of daylight that doesn't quite push the shadows back, just softens them enough that you can pretend they aren't there. I got up stiff, neck aching from the way I'd been sitting, and the first thing I did was look at the staircase. Nothing. Exactly as it should be. No movement, no sound, no sign that anything had happened at all. I actually felt a bit stupid then. That's how quickly your brain tries to reset things. I made a cup of tea, opened the kitchen window, let some air in, and stood there telling myself I'd wound myself up over nothing. Old house, weird acoustics, bad night's sleep, simple. I even laughed again, quieter this time. "Get a grip," I muttered, but there was still something sitting underneath all that. A tightness I couldn't shake, the kind that doesn't go when the lights come on. I forced myself to go back upstairs. That was the test, in my head. If I could walk up there in daylight and everything looked normal, then I'd know it was just my imagination getting away from me. The landing was exactly the same. Same doors, same carpet, same faint smell of dust and something sweet that clung to the air. All the doors were closed. Again. I stopped halfway along the corridor, frowning. I hadn't gone back up there after I came downstairs. I was sure of that. I would have remembered closing them, especially after everything that had happened. I reached out and opened the nearest one. Empty bedroom, nothing out of place. Second door, storage room, same as before. Third door, the nursery. I hesitated before opening it. Not out of fear exactly, more like reluctance, like I already knew something would be off and didn't want to confirm it. I pushed it open slowly. At first glance, it looked the same, but then I noticed the chair. It wasn't facing the wall anymore. It was facing the door, directly at me. I stood there, hands still on the handle, staring at it. I didn't move that, I said quietly. There was no one there to hear me. The bell cord hung motionless beside the window. The sheet-covered shape in the corner hadn't shifted. Everything else looked untouched, just the chair. I stepped inside, slower this time, every movement careful, measured, like I was trying not to disturb something I couldn't see. I went over to the chair and nudged it with my foot. It scraped slightly against the floorboards, solid, real. I turned it back toward the wall, stood there for a second, making sure it stayed that way. Then I left the room and closed the door behind me. Fine, I muttered. Drafts, uneven floor, whatever. I didn't believe it. Not really, but I needed something to hold on to. The rest of the morning passed without anything happening. I checked the fuse board, ran through the sockets, made notes, tried to keep my mind occupied with practical things, and for a while, it worked. But there was one thing that kept bothering me, the radio. I'd left it on in the front room overnight. When I went back in that morning, it was off, not unplugged, not switched off at the wall, just off. I stood there, looking at it, trying to remember if I'd turned it off myself and just forgotten. Of course it does. But I had a very clear memory of leaving it on. I'd wanted the noise, the company. I switched it back on. Nothing but static. I adjusted the dial. Still nothing. Just a low, steady hiss. Then, buried underneath it, a voice, so faint I almost missed it. I froze, hand still on the dial. It wasn't clear, not words I could pick out straight away. Just the shape of speech, like someone talking from a distance, muffled through walls. I leaned closer. The static crackled. The voice came through a little stronger. Hello? I stopped breathing. Hello? It sounded wrong. Not distorted like bad signal, not crackling or broken. Too clear, too close. Hello? I said without thinking. The moment the word left my mouth, I regretted it. There was a pause, then hello. Exactly the same. Same tone, same timing. My voice. I stepped back so quickly I nearly knocked the chair over behind me. No, I said, shaking my head. No, that's not. No. The radio repeated it perfectly. I stared at it, heart pounding, trying to make sense of what I was hearing. Feedback. It had to be feedback. Some kind of loop, interference, something technical I could explain. I reached forward and switched it off. The room fell silent. I stood there, waiting. Nothing. No voice. No static. Just the quiet. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Right, I whispered. That's enough of that. I turned to leave. That's when I heard it again. Not from the radio. From the hallway. Hello, my voice? Clear as day. Coming from just outside the door. I went cold. Completely cold. I didn't move. Didn't speak. Just stood there, staring at the doorway. Another pause. Then, a knock. 3 times. Slow, deliberate, right on the other side of the front room door. I felt my stomach drop. Owen's voice from the day before came back to me then. Don't answer if you hear knocking from inside the house. At the time, it had sounded like superstition, village nonsense. Standing there, listening to something on the other side of that door that sounded exactly like me. It didn't feel like nonsense anymore. The handle twitched, just slightly, as if someone had tested it. I took a step back. No, I said under my breath. I'm not doing this. The handle didn't move again. The silence stretched long enough that part of me started thinking I'd imagined it, that nothing was actually there. That if I just opened the door, I'd see an empty hallway and feel ridiculous all over again. My hand lifted slightly, without me meaning it to. I took a step forward, just one, the kind you take when you're about to prove yourself wrong. Then, from upstairs, a crash, loud, heavy, violent, like something had been thrown across the room. I flinched, heart jumping into my throat, and the moment broke. The handle stayed still. The knocking didn't come again. But something had changed. I could feel it. Before, whatever was happening had felt distant, uncertain, like it was testing the edges of things. Now, it felt like it was trying to get in. And worse, it knew how to sound like me. I didn't open the door. That's the one thing I keep coming back to. the only decision that still feels like mine. I stood there for a few seconds after the crash upstairs, heart hammering, eyes fixed on the handle, waiting for it to move again. It didn't. The hallway stayed silent. Whatever had been on the other side of that door, it stopped the moment I stopped responding. That should have been reassuring. It wasn't, because it meant it had reacted to me. I backed away slowly, not taking my eyes off the door until I was halfway across the room. Then I turned and grabbed my jacket, my keys, my phone, everything I needed to get out of the house. I didn't even think about it properly. It wasn't a decision. It was instinct. Get out. Get distance. Get somewhere normal. I moved quickly through the hallway, keeping to the edges like that would make a difference, and reached the front door. The chair I'd wedged under the handle scraped loudly as I pulled it away, the sound echoing too much in the silence. I unlocked the bolt, opened the door, stepped outside. The air hit me like something real. Cold, damp, but normal. The kind of cold you can understand. I stood on the porch for a second, breathing it in, trying to steady myself. Nothing followed me out. No footsteps, no voice, just the quiet lane, the hedges, the faint sound of wind moving somewhere beyond the trees. I walked down to the end of the path and didn't look back straight away. I didn't want to. I didn't want to see anything standing in the doorway or watching from one of the windows. But eventually I did. The house looked exactly the same. Still, empty, dead, like nothing had happened at all. That almost made it worse. I went straight to the village, didn't even bother locking the door behind me. The shop was open, bell above the door jangling as I stepped inside. Maggie Firth was behind the counter, stacking tins in a slow, methodical way that made it seem like she had all the time in the world. She looked up when I came in. And I swear, just for a second, her expression changed. Not surprise, not confusion, recognition. Like she'd been expecting to see me sooner or later. "You all right, love?" she asked. Simple question, casual, but there was something behind it. I walked up to the counter and leaned on it harder than I meant to. "That house," I said. "Blackthorn House." Her hand stopped moving, only for a moment. Then she set the tin down carefully and looked at me properly. "Something not working?" she asked. It was the wrong question. I let out a short breath. "Something's not right," I said. "Doors? Sounds? That bell upstairs?" "Ah!" She cut me off quietly, just that one word. Not surprised, not confused, just acknowledging. I stared at her. You knew. She didn't answer straight away. Just wiped her hands on her apron and glanced toward the shop window, like she was checking who might be outside. Then she leaned in slightly. "Best not to go chasing things in that place," she said. "Especially not on your own." "That's not good enough," I snapped, more sharply than I meant to. Something was knocking from inside the house. From inside. And I hesitated, then forced the words out. It sounded like me. That got a reaction. Not a big one, not dramatic, but her shoulders tightened, and her eyes dropped just for a second. "Did you answer it?" she asked. The way she said it, low, careful, it made my stomach turn. "No," I said. "I didn't open the door." She nodded once. "Good." That word "good" landed harder than anything else she'd said. "Good?" I repeated. "What does that mean? What happens if I had?" She didn't answer. Instead, she reached behind the counter, pulled out a small paper bag, and set it in front of me like we were just having a normal transaction. "You staying there long?" she asked. "A few days," I said. "Supposed to be." She gave a small, humorless smile. People don't usually last that long. I felt something twist in my chest. "Why?" Another pause. Then, finally, she met my eyes again. "Because it learns," she said quietly. I didn't like that. Didn't like the way she said it, or the way she didn't explain it. "Learns what?" "You," she said. Just that. No elaboration. I let out a frustrated breath and ran a hand through my hair. "Right, okay. Look, I'm not messing around here. I need to know if there's someone getting into that house, a squatter, or..." "There's no one getting in," she said. Too quickly, too certain. I stared at her. "Then what is it?" She didn't answer that either. Instead, she said, "You should talk to Owen." I found him outside the pub, exactly where you'd expect. Sitting on a low wall, flat cap pulled down, hands wrapped around a mug of something steaming. He looked up as I approached, like he'd heard my footsteps before I'd even reached him. "You stayed the night then?" he said. Not a question. I stopped in front of him. "Something knocked on a door inside the house." He nodded slightly. "And it sounded like me," I added. Another small nod, like I just confirmed something he already knew. I felt my temper flare. Are you going to explain that or just sit there agreeing with everything I say? He took a slow sip from his mug before answering. Did you go to it? He asked. No. Good. Same word Maggie had used. Same weight. I exhaled sharply. What happens if you do? Owen lowered the mug and looked at me properly. You stop being sure where you are, he said. That didn't help. What does that even mean? He gestured vaguely with one hand. House has its ways, moves things about, doors, spaces. You start following sounds thinking you're going from one room to another, and you're not. Not really. I frowned. That's not possible. He gave a dry, humorless chuckle. That's usually the first problem. I stood there for a moment, trying to process that. That crash I heard, I said slowly. Upstairs. That wasn't... Something letting you know it's there, he cut in. Or something trying to get you to come look. I felt that same cold sensation from earlier creep back in. So it wants me upstairs. Not always, Owen said. Sometimes it wants you somewhere else. That's not an answer. It's the only one you'll get. I stared at him, frustrated, unsettled, and starting to feel something else underneath it all. A kind of creeping understanding. Everything that had happened so far, the bell, the voice, the knocking, the crash, it hadn't been random. It had been directed, layered, one thing leading to another. Why does it sound like me? I asked quietly. Owen's expression shifted slightly at that. Because that's what you'll trust, he said. That hit harder than anything else. I swallowed. So what? It just copies voices. Start small, he said. Bits and pieces. Words you've said, sounds you've made, then it gets better. A pause. Then, almost as an afterthought, longer you stay, clearer it gets. I felt my throat go dry. And the knocking, I asked. What's that about? He looked past me toward the direction of the house. Invitation, he said. I didn't like that word either. Invitation to what? He didn't answer straight away. Then he said, you ever hear someone call your name from another room and you know exactly who it is, so you go to them without thinking? I nodded slowly. That's how it starts, he said. I stood there in silence for a moment, the weight of that settling in. Everything I'd experienced, every sound, every movement shifted in my mind. Rearranged, reinterpreted. It wasn't just a house with strange noises. It was something that was watching me, listening, learning how I moved, how I spoke, testing what I would respond to. And worst of all, it was getting closer. I rubbed my face, suddenly exhausted. I've got to go back, I said. Owen gave me a long look. You sure about that? No, I admitted, but I've got my tools there, my stuff, and I'm not leaving it like this. That wasn't the full truth. The real reason sat deeper than that. I needed to see if it would happen again. Needed to know I wasn't losing it. Owen nodded slowly, like he understood more than I'd said out loud. Then don't go answering anything, he said, no matter what it sounds like. I gave a short, humorless laugh. Yeah, I got that part. He didn't smile. I mean it, he said, even if it sounds like someone you know, even if it sounds like you. I hesitated, then nodded. Right. I turned to leave. Rowan, he called after me. I stopped. Don't let it put you in a hurry, he said. I frowned. What? It'll try, he said. Make you think something's wrong. Make you rush. That's when people stop thinking. I held his gaze for a second, then nodded again. Got it. Walking back up that lane felt different, heavier. Like every step was taking me closer to something I now understood just enough to be afraid of properly. The house came back into view slowly, rising behind the hedges exactly as it had before. Still. Quiet. Waiting. I stopped at the gate and looked at it for a long moment, trying to convince myself it was just a building, just brick and wood and old wiring. But now I knew better. Now I knew that everything I'd heard, everything I'd seen, it had been deliberate. And as I stepped back onto the path and headed for the front door, one thought kept circling in my head, louder than anything else. If it can sound like me, how long before I can't tell the difference? Walking back into Blackthorn House felt different. It wasn't just fear anymore. Fear is sharp, immediate. You feel it in your chest, your hands, your breathing. This was something slower, heavier, like stepping back into a place where you already knew you'd missed something important the first time. I stood in the doorway for a moment before closing it. The hallway looked exactly the same as before. Chair pushed aside, umbrella stand untouched, no movement, no sound. but it didn't feel empty anymore. That's the part I can't explain properly. It wasn't that I thought I could see anything. It was just this constant awareness, like walking into a room where someone's been standing behind you for too long and you've only just noticed. I shut the door quietly. Didn't bolt it this time. I don't know why. Maybe part of me thought if something wanted to come in, a bolt wasn't going to stop it anyway. Right, I muttered. In, out, get your stuff, leave. Simple plan. Didn't feel simple. I moved through the house slowly, keeping my steps steady, deliberate. No rushing. Owen's voice stuck in my head. Don't let it put you in a hurry. So I didn't. I went into the front room first. The radio was exactly where I'd left it. Off. I stood there looking at it for a second, then forced myself to ignore it. No point starting that again. I grabbed my bag from the armchair, checked my tools, shoved a few things inside without really thinking about them. Then I stopped. Something wasn't right. Not a sound this time. A feeling. The air had changed. Subtle, but enough that I noticed it immediately. Like the house had drawn in around me somehow. The silence felt thicker, closer. I turned toward the doorway. The hallway beyond looked longer, not physically longer. That would have been obvious, but the distance felt stretched somehow, like the far wall had shifted back by a few inches, just enough that it didn't quite line up with what I remembered. I blinked, looked again. It snapped back, same as before. I swallowed. Fine, I said quietly. Just get on with it. I stepped into the hallway. Nothing happened, no sound, no movement, just that same low pressure in the air. I made my way to the kitchen, grabbed the crate I'd brought in earlier, and started packing it up. Every movement felt louder than it should have been. The scrape of cardboard, the clink of a mug, my own breathing. I kept glancing toward the doorway, waiting for something, anything, but nothing came. And for a few minutes, everything seemed fine again. That's how it gets you. That brief stretch where you start thinking maybe you've overreacted. Maybe you've let yourself get wound up by nothing. Maybe the worst of it was just in your head. I even found myself relaxing slightly, just enough to make the next part worse. I was in the middle of lifting the crate when the fuse box clicked, sharp, loud, right behind me. I froze. The lights flickered once, twice, then steadied. I turned slowly toward the wall. The fuse box door, one of those old metal ones with the chipped white paint, was hanging open. I hadn't touched it. I was sure of that. I set the crate down carefully and stepped closer. The switches inside were all up. Nothing tripped, nothing out of place. Loose hinge, I said under my breath. I reached out to close it. Before my hand touched it, it slammed shut. I jerked back, heart jumping into my throat. The sound echoed through the kitchen. And then, a soft crackle, like static. I turned toward the counter. There was an old intercom unit fixed into the wall above the sink. I'd noticed it earlier but hadn't paid it much attention. Probably part of some outdated system that hadn't worked in years. It was dead, should have been. Now, a faint red light flickered on. I stared at it. The static grew louder, not loud enough to fill the room, just enough to be there. A low, constant hiss that made the back of my neck prickle. No, I said quietly. No, that's not. The static shifted, broke, and something came through. Not clear at first, just fragments, a breath, a whisper. Back. I felt my chest tighten. Put it back. The voice was strained, female, not old, not young, just tired. I didn't move, didn't breathe. You moved it. The words came clearer now, right through the speaker, right into the room. Put it back. I shook my head slowly. I haven't moved anything, I said, barely above a whisper. The static flared, sharp, angry. You did. My stomach dropped. I didn't, I said louder this time. I've just got here. I haven't. You took it. The voice cut through me, not shouting, not screaming, just certain. I felt something shift in my memory, a small detail, something I'd barely noticed at the time. The upstairs, the box room, that hidden door I'd found behind the wardrobe earlier. I hadn't thought much of it then, just old storage space. But there had been things in there, letters, objects, personal things. I'd picked something up. I couldn't remember what, but I had touched something, moved it. I didn't take anything, I said, though the words felt weaker now. The static crackled again, louder. Then, a sound that made my blood run cold. A laugh, soft, breathless, right up against the speaker. Liar. I stepped back so quickly I knocked into the counter behind me. No, I said. No, I'm not. The intercom cut out. Silence. Just like that. The red light flickered once, then died. I stood there, staring at it, my heart hammering, trying to process what had just happened. That hadn't been a recording. It hadn't been interference. It had responded. It had argued with me. I ran a hand over my face, suddenly aware of how cold I felt. "Right," I muttered. "That's it. I'm done." I grabbed the crate again, lifted it, and turned toward the hallway. This time, I didn't hesitate, didn't look around, didn't listen. I just moved, fast, not running, but not slow either. I reached the front door, pulled it open, and stopped. Something felt wrong. Not the house, the outside. The light had changed. It was darker than it should have been. I frowned, stepping onto the porch. The sky had gone flat gray. No sun, no shadow, just a dull, even light that didn't seem to come from anywhere. I checked my phone. 11:42 a.m. That didn't make sense. It should have been brighter, clearer. I looked back at the house. Every window stared back at me. Dark, still, watching. And for the first time since I'd arrived, I felt something new push through the fear. Not confusion, not disbelief, understanding. Whatever was in that house, it wasn't just reacting to me anymore. It was starting to get angry, because I'd already done something wrong. I just didn't know what it was yet. And as I stepped back inside to grab the rest of my things, because for some reason I still thought I could just leave, one thought settled in my head, heavy and certain. It doesn't want me to go. Not until I fix it. I should have left then, I know that. Anyone listening to this would say the same thing. Just walk out, get in the van, don't look back. But that's not how it works when you're actually there. It doesn't feel like a clean decision. It feels like unfinished business. Like something's been left open behind you, and worse, like something expects you to come back. I told myself I was just going in to grab the rest of my things. That was it. In and out. No more exploring. No more questions. No more trying to make sense of it. Just get everything and go. I stepped back into the hallway, the door closing behind me with a dull final sound that made something tighten in my chest. The house felt different again. Not louder, not darker, just aware. That's the only word I've got for it. Like it knew I'd step back inside. I moved quickly this time, heading straight for the stairs, forcing myself not to hesitate at the bottom like I had before. Up, grab it, down, done, I muttered under my breath. That's it. The first step creaked under my weight. Normal. Second step. Third. Each one sounded too loud, like the noise was carrying further than it should have, echoing up into the house in a way that made it feel like something up there could hear me coming. I reached the top of the stairs and stopped. Not because I wanted to, because my body did. The landing was darker than before. Not pitch black. The light from the downstairs hallway still reached partway up. But the far end of the corridor, the stretch leading toward the nursery, was swallowed in shadow. I frowned. The light switch was just to my right. I flicked it. Nothing. No click. No flicker. Just dead. Brilliant, I muttered. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my torch, clicking it on. The beam cut through the dimness, harsh and narrow, lighting up the carpet, the doors, the walls. Everything exactly where it should be. Except the doors were open, all of them, every single one, lined up along the corridor, just like before. I felt my stomach drop. I stopped myself. No point saying it out loud again. I knew I hadn't. The torch beam shook slightly as I moved it from one doorway to the next. Empty room, storage room, and at the far end, the nursery. Door wide open, dark inside. I swallowed. Get your stuff, I whispered. That's it. I stepped forward. One step, then another. The floor creaked under my weight, each sound stretching out into the silence. Halfway down the corridor, I heard it, a faint shift. Not a voice, not a knock. Movement. Somewhere ahead of me. I froze, the torch beam locking onto the nursery doorway. Hello? I called out before I could stop myself. The word felt wrong the moment it left my mouth. Too familiar, too easy. The silence that followed felt thicker than anything I'd experienced so far. Then, a sound. Not from the nursery, from above. I tilted the torch upward instinctively, the beam catching the ceiling. Another creak, slow, deliberate, like something shifting its weight directly overhead. My chest tightened. There's no one up there, I said quietly, more to myself than anything else. The attic space above shouldn't have been accessible. I hadn't seen any hatch, no ladder, nothing. Another creak. Closer this time, directly above where I stood. I took a step back, then another. The sound followed, staying above me, matching my movement. I felt something cold slide down my spine. "No," I whispered, "no, that's not." The creaking stopped. Dead. Silence dropped back in. I stood there not moving, the torch beam fixed on the ceiling, waiting. Nothing. Slowly, very slowly, I lowered the torch, and that's when I saw it. At the end of the corridor, standing just outside the nursery, a figure. Tall, still, facing me. For a second, just a second, my brain tried to make sense of it. Intruder. That was the first thought. Someone had gotten in. Someone had been in the house the whole time. That made sense. That was real. That was something I could deal with. "Oi!" I called out, voice sharper now. "What are you doing in here?" The figure didn't move, didn't respond, just stood there. I took a step forward, the torch beam catching more of it, a long coat, dark, hanging loose, too loose, like it wasn't sitting on a body properly. "Did you hear me?" I said louder now. "You need to leave, now." Still nothing, no movement, no reaction, just stillness. My grip tightened on the torch. "Right," I muttered. "Fine." I took another step forward. The beam reached its face, or where its face should have been, and everything inside me just stopped. There was nothing there. No eyes, no nose, no mouth. Just a smooth, pale surface, blank, like someone had taken a face and erased it. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move. My mind just stalled, because there was no way to process what I was looking at. No way to fit it into anything normal. The figure tilted its head, slowly, too far, the angle wrong, unnatural. And then, it moved, not forward, not toward me, backward, one step into the darkness of the nursery, and it was gone, just like that. I don't remember deciding to move. One second I was standing there, frozen. The next I was running, down the corridor, straight toward the nursery. I don't know why. Maybe because part of me still thought, still needed to think that it was something real. Someone I could catch. Someone I could force into making sense. I reached the doorway and swung the torch inside. The room was empty, completely empty. The chair, the sheet, the bell cord, all exactly where they should be. No figure, no movement, nothing. I stepped inside, breathing hard, the torch beam sweeping across the walls, the corners, the window. And then I saw it. On the floor, just inside the doorway, wet footprints leading in, dark against the wood, clear, fresh. I followed them with the torch, one after the other, across the room, toward the window, and then they stopped. No return, no exit, just gone. Like whatever had made them stepped into the room and never stepped out again. I felt something inside me finally give way then. Not panic, not screaming, just a quiet, heavy certainty. This wasn't something I could fix. This wasn't something I could explain. And it wasn't something that had just started happening. It had been here, waiting. And now, it had seen me. I backed out of the room slowly, not taking my eyes off the footprints until I crossed the threshold. The moment I stepped back into the corridor, something moved behind me, fast. I spun round, torch snapping back toward the nursery. Nothing, empty, still. But the air felt wrong, like something had just passed through it. Close, too close. I didn't wait. I turned and ran, down the corridor, down the stairs, not caring about the noise, the creaks, the echoes, just getting away from that landing, from that room, from whatever I'd just seen. I didn't stop until I reached the front door, hands shaking as I grabbed the handle, yanked it open, and stumbled out onto the porch. The cold air hit me again, real, grounded. I bent forward, hands on my knees, trying to catch my breath. And for a moment, just a moment, I thought I was out, that I'd made it, that whatever was in there couldn't follow. Then I heard it, from inside the house, upstairs, a slow, deliberate creak moving across the floor, directly above where I'd just been standing, following me to the edge. I didn't go back inside that day. Not properly. I stayed out on the porch for a long time after that, long enough for the cold to soak through my jacket, long enough for the sky to shift from that flat gray into something duller and heavier, like it was pressing down on everything below it. I remember just standing there, staring at the doorway, half expecting something to appear in it. Not rushing me, not attacking, just standing there the way that figure had. Nothing did. Eventually, the shaking in my hands settled enough that I could think straight again. And when I did, I realized something. All my stuff was still inside. My tools, my bag, my keys. No, not my keys. Those were in my pocket. But everything else, everything I needed to actually leave and not come straight back. I swore under my breath. Brilliant, I muttered. Absolutely brilliant. I couldn't just abandon it. Not all of it. Not the tools, at least. That was my job. my work. I couldn't just walk away and pretend it hadn't happened. But I also couldn't make myself step back through that door. Not yet. So I did the only thing I could think of. I called Becca. She picked up on the third ring. "You all right?" she said immediately. No greeting, no hesitation. I must have sounded off. I let out a breath. Yeah. I stopped. No, not really. There was a pause. "What's happened?" I glanced back at the house. "It's hard to explain." "Try me," I hesitated. I didn't want to sound mad, didn't want to say it out loud and hear how it sounded, but I also properly knew, that I shouldn't be there on my own anymore. "There's something wrong with the house," I said. Another pause. Then more carefully, "Wrong how?" "Things moving," I said. "Doors, sounds, voices." I swallowed. "It sounded like me, Beck. Whatever it is, it copied me." Silence. Longer this time. "You're serious," she said finally. "Yeah. You're not just tired or something?" "I thought I was," I said. "Last night. But it's not that. It's not just noises. I saw something." "What do you mean you saw something?" I closed my eyes briefly. "A person. Or I don't know. It didn't have a face." That landed. I could hear it in the way she breathed out on the other end of the line. "Right," she said after a second. "Okay, stay there." "I am staying here," I said quickly. "I'm not going back inside until, stay there," she cut in. "Outside. Don't go anywhere." "I'm coming up." "You don't need to." "I'm already getting my keys," she said. "I'll be there in an hour, maybe less." "Becca, Rowan," she said, firm now. "You don't sound right. I'm coming." And that was that. She hung up before I could argue. I didn't move from that spot while I waited. I sat on the low stone edge by the path eventually, just to get off my feet, but I kept my eyes on the house the whole time. Every window, every doorway, the upstairs landing window in particular. Nothing changed. No movement. No shadows passing. If anyone had driven past, they would have seen exactly what you'd expect. Just a bloke sitting outside an old house, probably having a break from work. They wouldn't have seen what I was watching for, or what I was trying not to think about. The hours stretched, felt longer. Every now and then I thought I heard something from inside. Faint creaks, maybe a shift of something upstairs, but it was impossible to tell if it was real or just my head filling in the silence. I kept going over it. The figure, the footprints, the voice, trying to fit it into something that made sense. It didn't. Not in any way I could hold on to. By the time I saw Becca's car turning onto the lane, I felt a strange mix of relief and something else I didn't like admitting. Guilt. Because the moment she stepped out of the car, I knew I wasn't just dealing with this on my own anymore. And I wasn't sure what that meant for her. She pulled up hard, engine cutting off before the car had even fully settled. The door slammed. "All right," she said, walking straight up to me. "Talk." No hesitation, no easing into it, just straight to the point. I stood up slowly. "You didn't have to come all the way." "Stop," she said. "Just tell me what happened." So I did. Not all of it in perfect order. Not neatly. Just the important parts. The door, the bell, the voice, the knocking, the figure upstairs. I expected her to laugh it off, or at least push back a bit. Ask questions, try to rationalize it. She didn't. She just listened. Face tight, eyes flicking occasionally toward the house. When I finished, there was a moment of silence. Then she said, "All right?" Just like that. "All right?" I repeated. "Yeah," she said. "Let's go have a look." I blinked. "What?" "We're not just leaving your stuff in there." "No," she said. "And I'm not taking your word for it without seeing the place." I let out a short, disbelieving laugh. "You think I'm making it up?" "I think something's happened," she said. "I just want to see what." "That's not a good idea." She gave me a look. "You called me." "I know, but..." "Rowan." She stepped past me and walked straight toward the door. "Becca," I started, but she was already there. She grabbed the handle, pulled it open, and stepped inside. I swore under my breath and followed her in. The moment we crossed the threshold, something changed. I felt it instantly. Not dramatic, not visible, just that same shift in the air, like the house had noticed. Becca paused just inside, looking around. "Cold," she muttered. "Yeah." She glanced back at me. "You left the lights on?" "Yeah." She frowned slightly. "They're off." I looked past her. She was right. The hallway was dim again, the light from outside barely reaching past the doorway. "I didn't turn them off," I said. "Probably tripped something," she said, though she didn't sound convinced. Then she took another step in, and Moss, her dog, stopped dead at the threshold. He hadn't even made it fully inside, one paw over, the rest of him still outside. He let out a low whine. "Come on," Becca said, glancing back. He didn't move, just stood there, ears back, body tense, eyes fixed on the staircase. "Oi," she said, giving the lead a small tug. "Don't be daft." He resisted, actually resisted, not pulling away, just refusing, digging his paws in. The whine turned into something lower, a growl. I felt my chest tighten. "He doesn't do that," I said quietly. "I know he doesn't," she replied, frowning. She crouched slightly, trying to coax him. "Come on, Moss, it's just a house." He didn't move. His eyes didn't leave the stairs. Then, a sound from upstairs, a soft, clear ding, the bell. Becca froze, slowly stood up. "What was that?" she asked. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. We both knew. Another ding, louder this time. Moss let out a sharp bark and jerked backward, nearly pulling the lead from her hand. "All right," Becca said, voice tighter now. "That's okay." She looked at me. I could see it in her face. The shift from curiosity to something else. "Still think it's nothing?" I asked quietly. She didn't answer straight away. Her eyes moved toward the staircase, then back to me. "No," she said, and for the first time since she'd arrived, she looked uncertain. Upstairs, something creaked, slow, deliberate, like a footstep. Moss barked again, louder this time, and neither of us told him to stop. We didn't stay inside much longer after that. Not properly. Becca didn't say it out loud straight away, but I could see it on her face, the same shift I'd felt earlier. That moment where everything stops being explainable and starts being something else. "Right," she said finally, tightening her grip on Moss's lead. "We're going back out." I didn't argue. We backed out of the house the same way we'd come in, slow at first, not turning our backs on the stairs, both of us listening for anything else. Moss practically dragged us the last step over the threshold, claws scraping against the floor as soon as he realized we were leaving. The moment the door shut behind us, he stopped barking. Just like that. He stood there, breathing hard, staring at the wood as if he could still see through it. Becca crouched beside him, running a hand over his neck. "All right, mate, easy." I watched the house. Nothing moved. No curtains shifting. No shadow passing. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something had followed us as far as it could and stopped at the door, like it knew the line. Or maybe, like it didn't need to cross it yet. Becca stood up slowly. "You weren't exaggerating," she said. "No," I replied. She looked back at the house again, longer this time. "That bell, there's no way that was anything normal." "No." And Moss, she shook her head slightly. "He's never reacted like that before. Not once." We stood there for a moment, both of us thinking the same thing but not saying it. Then she sighed. "Right? We need answers." "Yeah," I said. "Maggie sent me to Owen. And?" He didn't explain much, just warnings. She gave a short, humorless laugh. "Brilliant. Love a good warning with no actual explanation." "Yeah," I muttered. "Welcome to the village." We found them both where I'd left them. Maggie was inside the shop again, rearranging the same shelf like she hadn't moved all morning, and Owen was still outside the pub, though his mug had been replaced with another. They both looked up when we approached. And again, that look, that same quiet recognition, like we'd crossed some invisible line just by going back into that house. Becca didn't ease into it. She walked straight up to Owen. "There's something in that place." He nodded once. "I'm not talking about old pipes or bad wiring," she added. We both heard it, the bell upstairs, and my dog won't even go in. Owen's eyes flicked briefly toward Moss, then back to her. "Animals know things we don't," he said. "That's not helpful," she snapped. He didn't react to her tone, just took another slow sip of his drink. I stepped in. "You said it learns? What does that mean?" Owen didn't answer straight away. Maggie came out of the shop then, wiping her hands on her apron again, like she decided she couldn't ignore it anymore. "Wah, you've been inside long enough now," she said, looking at both of us. "You're already part of it." That didn't sit well. "What does that mean?" Becca asked. Maggie glanced at Owen. Owen gave a small nod. Whatever that meant between them, it was enough. Maggie let out a breath. "House didn't start like that," she said. "Not from what anyone remembers. It changed." "How?" I asked. She hesitated, then said, "You ever heard of the Vale family?" I shook my head. Becca did the same. Maggie gave a faint, humorless smile. "Most people around here pretend they haven't." Owen shifted slightly on the wall. "Because it's easier that way." "Easier than what?" Becca pressed. Then remembering what happened in that house, Maggie said. The air felt heavier suddenly, like even talking about it was enough to stir something. Go on, I said quietly. Maggie nodded once. Dr. Julian Vale, she began, lived there years back, before either of you were born. Him, his wife Evelyn, and their daughter, Elsie. The name landed strangely, soft, out of place. Normal family, from what people say, she continued. Kept to themselves mostly. He worked in town. She stayed at home. The little girl, she paused, frowning slightly, like she was trying to picture something she hadn't seen herself. Quiet, didn't mix much with the other children. What happened? Becca asked. Maggie's expression darkened. One winter, she said, she was just gone. Gone how? I asked. No one knows, Owen said. Maggie nodded. That's the truth of it. No signs of her leaving. No broken windows, no forced doors, nothing, just gone. A cold feeling settled in my stomach. They searched the whole house, Maggie went on. Every room, every cupboard, every inch of land around it. Police came in, dogs, everything. And, Becca asked. Nothing, Maggie said. Not a trace. Silence stretched between us. I glanced back toward the house, barely visible through the hedges. Then what? I asked. Owen let out a slow breath. That's when it started. What did? The noises, he said. At first it was just little things, creaks, sounds in the walls. Dr. Vale said it was the house settling. Maggie picked up where he left off. Then he started hearing her. My chest tightened. Elsie? I said. She nodded. Crying at first, she said, from behind the walls, from places there weren't any rooms. Then talking, calling out. I felt Becca shift slightly beside me. That's not possible, she said. No, Maggie agreed quietly. It's not. But he heard it anyway, Owen added. And what did he do? I asked. Maggie's expression twisted slightly. He tried to find her. How? He started tearing the house apart, Owen said. Walls, floors, anything he thought might be hiding space behind it. Left holes everywhere, Maggie added. Opened up places that had been sealed for years. Some he couldn't even explain. Just said they weren't there before. I felt a slow, creeping dread building. That hidden room upstairs, I said quietly, behind the wardrobe. Maggie looked at me sharply. You found it? Yeah. She nodded slowly. That would have been one of his. What was he looking for? Becca asked. His daughter, Owen said simply. But she wasn't there, I said. No, Maggie said, but something else was. Silence again, heavier this time. What do you mean? I asked. Maggie hesitated, then said he started writing things down, everything he heard, every sound, every word, kept notebooks. Like what? Becca asked. Owen's jaw tightened slightly. Said the voice wasn't right. I felt my stomach drop. Not right how? Too perfect, he said, too clear. Said it sounded like her, but not quite, like something trying to be her. A chill ran through me, like it was copying her, I said. Owen met my eyes. I swallowed. Then what happened? Maggie's voice softened slightly. His wife left. Evelyn? She nodded. Couldn't take it anymore. Said the house wasn't just haunted, it was wrong. Like it was listening, learning. Becca glanced at me. We didn't say anything. We didn't need to. That's where the story started, Owen said, after she left. What stories? Becca asked. Owen looked toward the house. The ones about it calling people, he said. My chest tightened again. Calling them how? Voices, he said. Familiar ones, friends, family, even themselves. Becca went still. And if they answered, she asked quietly. Owen didn't look at her. They stopped knowing where they were, he said. The same words as before, but heavier now, because now we knew what they meant. Maggie spoke again, softer this time. Dr. Vale was found in that house weeks later. How? I asked. In the nursery, she said. My heart skipped. Alive? Becca asked. Maggie shook her head slowly. No, she said. Dead. A pause. Then he'd torn his hands to pieces trying to get into the walls. Silence fell. Complete. The kind that presses in around you. And Elsie? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Maggie's eyes flicked briefly toward the house. They never found her, she said. Something cold settled deep in my chest. I thought about the nursery, the bell, the voice, the figure, and suddenly, none of it felt random anymore. None of it felt new. I looked back toward Blackthorn House again, and for the first time, I didn't see just a house. I saw something that had been there a long time, something that had already taken someone and learned how to sound like them. Becca broke the silence. We're not staying there, she said firmly. I didn't answer straight away, because part of me, the part that had heard that voice in the kitchen, knew something we hadn't said yet. It hadn't just been copying me, it had been trying to get me to answer. And now, it knew I wouldn't. I swallowed. That thing, I said quietly. It's not just in the house, is it? Owen didn't look at me. Maggie didn't answer, but the silence between them said enough. And as we stood there, the three of us facing that quiet, empty house, I couldn't shake one thought. If it learned from her, and now it's learning from me, what happens when it gets it right? We stood there longer than we should have. That's something I've realized since, how easy it is to linger when you're trying to understand something you shouldn't be near in the first place. Like if you just stay a bit longer, ask the right question, it'll all fall into place. It doesn't. It just pulls you in deeper. We're done here, Becca said finally, breaking the silence. We're getting your stuff and we're leaving. Today. Maggie opened her mouth like she was about to say something, then stopped. Owen didn't speak at all. That should have been the warning. What? Becca said, noticing. What is it? Maggie shook her head slightly. Just don't take too long. That's the plan, Becca replied, already turning away. I hesitated, just for a second, then followed her back up the lane. The house looked the same. Of course it did. Still, quiet, empty. But now I could feel it. Before, it had been a suspicion. Now it was certainty. Something in there was waiting. We stopped at the gate. Becca glanced at me. Quick in, quick out. No wandering. Yeah, no answering anything. I know. She held my gaze for a moment, making sure I meant it. Then she nodded once. Right? We walked up to the door together. Moss did. He stopped at the gate this time, not even trying to follow. Just stood there, body rigid, watching us with this low, constant whine that made my skin crawl. He'll be fine, Becca said, though she didn't sound convinced. Yeah, I muttered. I reached for the handle. For a split second, I hesitated, because something felt wrong. Not the house, not the door, something else, a thought, a memory. Then, knock, 3 times. From inside, my hand froze on the handle. Becca stiffened beside me. We both stared at the door. Another knock, same rhythm, slow, measured, like someone standing just on the other side, waiting. Becca looked at me. That's not, I know? My heart was already racing. Owen's words echoed in my head. Don't answer if you hear knocking from inside the house. The handle twitched, just slightly. Like before, I stepped back. No, I said under my breath. No, we're not doing this. Becca nodded quickly. Right, good, don't open it yet. The knocking stopped, just like that. Silence. We stood there, waiting. 5 seconds, 10, nothing. Becca let out a slow breath. Maybe it's just... The door creaked open, on its own, slowly, the gap widening just enough to reveal the dark hallway beyond. No one there, no movement, just the house. Waiting. I swallowed. Quick, Becca said, in and out. We stepped inside together, and the door shut behind us. Hard. The sound echoed through the house. Moss barked once outside. Then, nothing. The hallway felt tighter than before, closer, like the walls had shifted inward by inches. Do you feel that? Becca whispered. Yeah. We moved forward carefully. No lights, no sound, just our footsteps. I'll grab the stuff downstairs, she said quietly. You get your tools from the front room. Then we go, straight out. Yeah, we split, only a few steps apart, but it felt further. I moved into the front room, keeping the doorway in sight, the hallway beyond it. Everything looked normal. Chair, radio, my bag. I grabbed it quickly, slinging it over my shoulder, and then, from the hallway, Rowan? I froze. Becca's voice, clear, right outside the door. Yeah? I called back instinctively, then stopped. My stomach dropped. Owen's words, don't answer. I hadn't meant to. It had just come out. Too easy, too natural. There was a pause. Then Rowan, same voice, same tone, but slower, like it had copied the sound, but not the timing. I felt something cold crawl up my spine. That's not you, I said quietly. No answer. I stepped toward the doorway slowly. The hallway was empty, no Becca, no movement, just a long stretch of carpet and closed doors. Closed. I frowned. They were open, I muttered. Every single door, shut. I took a step out into the hallway. Becca, I called louder now. No answer. Then, from behind me, Rowan, I spun around. The front room, empty, but the voice had come from inside it, from where I'd just been standing. My chest tightened. No, I whispered. No, no. Footsteps, from upstairs, fast, running, back and forth across the landing. Becca, it sounded like Becca. Rowan, she shouted from above. Rowan, where are you? I looked up the stairs. Becca? I'm up here, she called. I think there's something. She cut off. The sound stopped. Dead. Silence. My heart pounded. I took a step toward the stairs. Then, from the kitchen, Rowan, I froze. That was Becca. But from downstairs, from the opposite direction. "Where have you gone?" she called. My mind stalled. Two voices, same person, different places. I felt the world tilt slightly. "What?" I whispered. "Rowan, answer me." The upstairs voice called again. "Urgent now." "Please!" "Rowan!" the downstairs voice shouted at the same time. "Stop messing about." I stood there, caught between them. One above, one below. Both real, both wrong. My breathing quickened. My hands started shaking again. "Think!" I muttered. Owen's voice. "It'll try to put you in a hurry." My chest tightened. "That's what this is," I said quietly. "It's trying to rush me." "Rowan!" the upstairs voice cried, louder now. "Please, I need." "Rowan!" the downstairs voice snapped. "Get in here now!" I closed my eyes for a second. Listened. Really listened. One of them was slightly off, just enough. The rhythm, the spacing, the way the words sat. The upstairs voice, too clean, too perfect, like it had been copied. I opened my eyes, turned toward the kitchen, and ran. I found Becca there, exactly where she should have been, standing by the counter looking pale but solid. Real. "Where were you?" she demanded. I grabbed her arm. "Upstairs. There's something copying you." Her face drained of color. "I heard you, two of you. One up there, one down here." Her grip tightened on my sleeve. "I've been here the whole time," I nodded. "I know." We stood there for a second, listening, waiting, nothing. Then, upstairs, a slow creak, a footstep, and Rowan, her voice again. But wrong, drawn out, too soft, too close. Becca's nails dug into my arm. "That's not me, I know." Another step, then another, moving across the landing, toward the stairs, toward us. "Rowan?" I backed up slightly, pulling her with me. "Don't answer," I whispered. "I won't." The voice reached the top of the stairs, paused, and then laughed. Not loudly, not sharply, just a quiet, breathy sound, like it was pleased. And in that moment, something clicked into place in my head. This wasn't just copying us. It wasn't just mimicking voices. It was testing, trying different versions, seeing which one we'd follow, which one we'd trust. And now, it knew we wouldn't go upstairs, so it would try something else. I tightened my grip on Becca's arm. "We're leaving," I said. "Now." She nodded. We turned toward the hallway, and as we stepped out of the kitchen, every door in the corridor slammed shut at once. The sound hit like a gunshot, echoing, violent, final. Becca flinched hard. "What the hell? Don't stop," I said. We moved quickly toward the front door. Halfway there, knock, 3 times, from the inside, right behind us. We didn't turn, didn't slow down, just kept going. The handle of the front door came into view, so close I reached for it, and it twisted on its own. Before I could touch it, I froze. Becca stopped beside me. The door creaked open, slowly, revealing the gray daylight outside. Empty, silent, waiting. I didn't hesitate this time. "Go," I said. We stepped through, together, out onto the porch. The moment we crossed the threshold, the door slammed shut behind us. Hard. Moss barked wildly at the gate. And inside the house, we heard it. Faint, muffled, from somewhere deep within the walls. Rowan, my voice, calling after us. And for the first time, I didn't feel like we'd escaped. I felt like something had just learned exactly how not to let us go next time. We didn't stop at the gate this time. Didn't slow down, didn't look back, didn't say anything until we were halfway down the lane and the house was mostly hidden behind the hedges. Only then did Becca grab my arm and pull me to a stop. "What the hell was that?" she said, breathless, eyes wide. "Two of me? Upstairs and downstairs? That's not Rowan. That's not possible." "I know," I said, but the words felt empty because we both heard it, and worse, we both understood it. Moss paced in tight circles at our feet, still agitated, still looking back toward the house every few seconds like he expected something to come after us. Becca ran a hand through her hair. "We're done," she said. "We're not going back in there. You can leave your stuff. We'll come back with someone else. I don't care." "I can't," I said. She stared at me. "What do you mean? You can't?" I hesitated, because I didn't want to say it out loud, didn't want to give it shape, but it was already there, sitting in the back of my mind. "I think I already did something," I said quietly. Her expression shifted. "What?" "In that room upstairs," I said. "Behind the wardrobe. There were things in there, letters, objects. I picked something up. And whatever's in that house," I swallowed. "It knows." She stared at me for a second, then shook her head. "So what? You touched something. That doesn't mean we have to go back in there and, what, apologize to it?" You heard the voice, I said. In the kitchen. It said I moved something. Told me to put it back. Becca's jaw tightened. That doesn't mean it's telling the truth. No, I said, but it means it thinks I did something wrong. A pause. The wind shifted slightly through the hedges, carrying that same faint smell I'd noticed before. Lavender. Becca noticed it too. Her nose wrinkled. Do you smell that? Yeah. We both looked back at the house. Even from here, it felt closer, like distance didn't matter as much as it should. Becca let out a slow breath. We're not going back in, she said again, more firmly this time. I think we have to. She stared at me like I just lost it completely. Rowan, if we don't, I cut in, then what? It just follows? Keeps doing this? Keeps learning? That's not how this works. Then how does it work? I snapped. She didn't answer because she didn't know, because none of this made sense. I softened slightly. Look, I said, we go in, we find whatever I move, we put it back, then we leave. And you think that'll just fix it? No, I admitted, but I think it's what it wants. She shook her head. That's worse. Yeah, I said quietly. I know. A long silence stretched between us. Then Becca sighed, hard. 5 minutes, she said. We go in, we find your thing, and we get out. That's it. No exploring, no splitting up, no answering anything. Agreed. She looked at me again, making sure. Agreed, I repeated. She nodded once. Right? Walking back up that path felt heavier than before, like the ground itself resisted each step. Moss didn't follow this time. He stayed at the gate, whining, pacing, refusing to come any closer. I didn't try to make him. Some part of me thought he was the smartest one there. We reached the door. It stood exactly as we'd left it, closed, still, waiting. Becca glanced at me. Quick, I nodded. I reached for the handle, opened it. We stepped inside. The house felt different again. Colder. Not just temperature, something deeper, like the air itself had thickened. The hallway stretched out in front of us, and every door was open, again. Becca let out a quiet, uneasy breath. I hate that. Yeah. We moved together this time, shoulder to shoulder, not letting any distance open up between us. Upstairs, I said. No wandering, she replied. We reached the stairs. The darkness above looked heavier than before, almost solid. I flicked the switch. Nothing. Torch, she said. I pulled it out, clicked it on. The beam cut upward, slicing through the dimness. Let's go, I said. We climbed, slowly, each step creaking, each sound carrying too far. At the top, we stopped. The corridor was wrong, not in an obvious way, not something you could point at and say that shouldn't be there, just off. The proportions felt different, the walls slightly closer, the ceiling slightly lower, like the space had been adjusted. Becca whispered, "Do you feel that?" Yeah. We stepped forward, together, every door open, every room exposed, but the shadows inside them deeper, thicker, as if they weren't just absence of light anymore. Halfway down the corridor, the nursery door began to move, slowly, without a sound, swinging inward on its own. We froze, the torch beam locked onto it, the gap widened, darkness spilling out. Then, a sound, delicate, music, a music box, playing somewhere inside the room. The tune was wrong, not broken, not distorted, just unfamiliar, like something trying to be a lullaby but missing pieces. Becca's grip tightened on my sleeve. We don't have to go in there. That's where it is, I said quietly. How do you know? I stopped, because I didn't know. Not logically, but something inside me did. A pull, a certainty. That's where I went before, I said. That's where I found that room. The music continued, soft, repetitive. We stepped closer, slowly, carefully. The doorway loomed ahead, and then we were standing in it. The nursery had changed, completely. The dust was gone, the sheet in the corner, gone. The air felt warmer, thicker. The walls, covered in markings, dark lines scratched into the paint. Heights, dates, names, growing higher and higher, until the last mark reached far above any normal height. Becca whispered, "What is this?" I didn't answer. I couldn't, because I was looking at the floor, at the center of the room, where something sat, small, still, facing away from us, a child, a little girl, sitting cross-legged, her back to us. Becca's breath caught. "Rowan," I swallowed. "Hello?" I said, my voice barely steady. The girl didn't move. The music box stopped. Silence. Then she spoke. "Did he send you?" Her voice was soft, clear, wrong. My chest tightened. "Who?" "The man in the walls," she said. Becca gripped my arm harder. "That's not," she whispered. I stepped forward slightly. "What do you mean?" The girl tilted her head, slowly, too slowly. "He said you'd come," she said. "He said you'd try to find me." A cold wave passed through me. "Are you Elsie?" I asked. She didn't answer, just sat there, still, quiet. She turned, slowly, to face us, and my stomach dropped because her face wasn't right, not blank like the figure before, not missing, just wrong. The features slightly misplaced, eyes too wide, mouth too still, like someone had built a face from memory, but didn't quite get it right. Becca let out a sharp breath. "Rowan, that's not a child." I knew, I could feel it, every instinct screaming it. But it looked so close, so almost human. "Where is it?" I asked, forcing the words out. "The thing I moved." The girl smiled, too wide, too slow. "You took it," she said. "I didn't mean to," I replied. "Doesn't matter," she said softly. And then the air shifted. Behind her, something moved. Tall, dark, unfolding, the figure, the one from the landing. Standing now, directly behind her, closer than before, too close. I took a step back. Becca pulled at my arm. "We need to go." I nodded, but I couldn't look away because the figure was breathing. I could hear it now, slow, wet, through something that wasn't quite a mouth. And then the girl spoke again. "You can stay," she said. The figure leaned forward slightly, as if listening, as if waiting. I felt something snap inside me. "No," I said, firm, certain. I grabbed Becca's arm and pulled her back. We turned, ran, out of the room, into the corridor. Didn't stop, didn't look back. The music box started again behind us, louder, faster, the tune twisting, breaking, as if it was trying to follow. And as we reached the stairs, a voice came from behind us. Not the girl, not the figure. Something else, low, close, right at the edge of hearing. "Don't leave." I didn't stop, didn't answer, just ran, because for the first time, I knew exactly what would happen if we didn't. We didn't make it all the way down the stairs. That's the part that still doesn't sit right with me, because I know we ran. I remember the motion, the panic, the way the floor seemed to tilt under our feet as we pushed toward the top step. The sound of that music box behind us, speeding up, warping, like it was being wound too tight. I remember grabbing the banister. I remember Becca right behind me. And then we weren't on the stairs anymore. We were somewhere else. I stumbled forward, catching myself against a wall that shouldn't have been there. The torch beam swung wildly, bouncing off rough plaster inches from my face. "What?" Becca gasped behind me. "Rowan, where are we?" "I don't." My voice echoed strangely. Too close, too narrow. I steadied the torch. And that's when I saw it. We weren't in the corridor. We weren't on the stairs. We were inside the walls. A narrow passage, barely wide enough for two people to stand side by side. Plaster on one side, exposed timber on the other, dust thick in the air, and the smell, stronger here, lavender, but wrong, rotting underneath it. Becca grabbed my arm. No, this wasn't here. I know. My heart was pounding again, harder than before. Because Owen had been right. You stop being sure where you are. "I turned for the stairs," I said, trying to piece it together. You didn't come through a door," Becca said. "There wasn't a door." I swung the torch back the way we'd come. There was no entrance, just more wall, seamless, unbroken. My chest tightened. "Okay," I said quickly. "Okay, don't panic." "I'm already panicking," she snapped. I know, but we just need to find a way out." The space stretched ahead of us, narrow, crooked, disappearing into darkness. And somewhere beyond it, that music box, still playing, muffled now, distant, like it had moved further away, or like we had. "Do you hear that?" Becca whispered. "Yeah." "Is it behind us?" I hesitated, because I didn't know. The sound didn't behave properly. It wasn't coming from a direction. It was just there, inside the space, inside the walls. "Stay close," I said. She didn't argue. We moved forward, slowly, carefully, each step kicking up dust. The air felt thick, stale, like it hadn't been disturbed in years. The torch beam slid over the walls, and then I saw them. Marks, everywhere. Scratches in the plaster, deep, chaotic, layered over each other. Some long and jagged, others short, repeated, like someone had clawed at the walls again and again and again. Becca saw them too. Her breath hitched. "Jesus." I moved the torch closer. The marks weren't random. Some formed shapes, letters, words, barely legible. But there, here, not there, don't listen. My stomach dropped. "Julian," I whispered. "What?" Becca asked. "The doctor. This is where he was." The idea settled heavily. This wasn't just a hidden space. It was where he'd searched, where he'd lived, where he'd gone looking for something that wasn't where it should be. We moved further in. The passage bent slightly, the space narrowing even more. And then something crunched under my foot. I froze, looked down. The torch beam caught it, a small object, metal. I crouched slowly, picking it up. Cold, worn, a badge, name etched into it, faded, but still readable. LCV, my breath caught. Rowan, Becca whispered. She was here, I said, or something that belonged to her had been, which might have been worse. I slipped the badge into my pocket without thinking. A mistake. I didn't realize that yet. Look at this, Becca said quietly. I turned. She was pointing at the wall ahead. The scratches there were different, more deliberate, grouped together. I stepped closer, raised the torch, and read. It is not her. It learns. Her don't follow the voice. My chest tightened. That's what Owen meant, I said. That's what he was writing about. Becca shook her head slowly. He knew. Yeah. Another line, deeper than the others. It will ask you to come closer. I swallowed. Too late. We were already here. A faint sound came from ahead, not the music box this time. Something else, a soft dragging noise, like fabric brushing against the walls. Becca grabbed my arm. That's not us. I know. The sound moved, slow, deliberate, from deeper within the passage. Hello? Becca said before I could stop her. I turned sharply. Don't. Too late. The sound stopped. Silence. Then, Becca, her voice, from ahead, perfect, clear. Becca went still. That's not me, she whispered. I know. Becca? The voice came again, closer, wrong, the tone slightly off, the rhythm just a fraction delayed. Becca's grip tightened painfully on my arm. Don't answer, I said. I'm not going to. The passage seemed to press in around us, the air thickening, the torch flickered once, then steady. Rowan? Now my voice, from the same direction. My stomach dropped. Don't, Becca started. I won't. But hearing it, hearing myself, it did something instinctive, like part of me wanted to respond, wanted to correct it, wanted to say, no, that's not right. I clenched my jaw, forced it down. The voice came again, closer. Where are you? My voice, but not mine. Too smooth, too certain. And then another sound behind us, a soft shift, like something brushing against the wall. We turned. The torch beam snapped back. Nothing, empty. But the air moved, just slightly, like something had just passed through it. Between us, I felt my pulse spike. It's not just ahead, I said quiet. Becca's voice shook. It's in here with us. The realization settled like a weight. We weren't following it. We were inside it. The walls, the space, all of it. It wasn't just hiding in the house. It was part of it. Rowan, the voice came again. This time, right beside my ear. I flinched hard, stumbling back. Don't, I snapped. Don't do that. Becca looked at me. I didn't. I know. We stood there, both of us breathing too fast, too shallow. Then, a new sound from deeper in the passage. A scratching, rapid, desperate, like something trying to get out. The torch beam shook as I pointed forward. The passage opened slightly ahead, just enough to see a section of wall, bulging, pushing outward. From the inside, Becca gasped, "What is that?" I didn't answer, because I already knew. The plaster shifted, cracked, and then a hand pressed through. From behind the wall, small, thin, fingers splayed, scratching at the surface, trying to break through. I stumbled back, dragging Becca with me. "That's not real," she said. "That's not." The hand moved. Frantically, another one appeared beside it. Then a face, pushing through the plaster, distorted, flattened, mouth open in a silent scream. I felt my stomach twist. "It's her," Becca whispered. "No," I said immediately. "No, it's not." Because it wasn't right. The proportions, the expression. It was trying, but it wasn't correct. The face pressed harder. The wall bulged further, cracking, breaking. The mouth moved, and a voice came through. "Help me." Soft, weak, childlike. Becca stepped forward instinctively. "Wait." I grabbed her arm. "Don't, please." The face twisted, strained. "It hurts." Becca's eyes filled with something I hadn't seen before. Not fear, so compassion. That was worse. "It's trapped," she said. "No," I said firmly. "It's not. That's not her." "How do you know?" "Because it's wrong," I said. "Because everything here is wrong." The face pushed harder. The wall cracked further. The hand reached out toward us. "Help." I tightened my grip on her arm. "Don't touch it," I said. "Rowan, don't." My voice came out sharper than I meant, but it worked. She stopped. The hand stretched further, almost through, almost. Then it stopped. Mid-reach, frozen. The voice cut off. The face went still. And then it smiled, too wide, too slow, and the entire wall snapped back, flat, empty, gone. The passage fell silent, complete, heavy. Becca stared at the spot where it had been. "That wasn't real," she said. "No." We stood there for a moment, trying to breathe, trying to process what we'd just seen. And then a thought hit me. Cold, sharp, immediate. It's trying different things, I said. What? It tried your voice, my voice, now that. Becca looked at me. It's learning, I said. What works? The words hung between us, horrible, certain. And somewhere in the passage, that music box started again, closer now, waiting for us to follow. We didn't follow the music. That's the only reason we're still here. Because everything in that moment, everything in your body, tells you to move toward it. Not out of curiosity, not even out of fear, out of instinct. The same instinct that makes you answer when someone calls your name from another room. But we didn't. We stood there in that narrow space, backs nearly against the wall, breathing too fast, staring into the dark where the sound was coming from. Don't, I said quietly. Becca nodded. I'm not. The music continued, soft, slow, almost gentle. That was the worst part. It wasn't trying to scare us, it was trying to calm us. I felt something shift in my chest, a pull, not strong, not overwhelming, just enough, like a thought that isn't quite yours. Go on, it's safe. I clenched my jaw. No, I whispered. Becca glanced at me. You all right? Yeah, I wasn't. I could feel it working. Not physically, not like something grabbing you, something else. Subtle, like it was pressing against the edges of your thoughts, trying to slide into the spaces where you weren't paying attention. The music grew slightly louder, not closer, just clearer, like it was adjusting itself, finding the right level. Becca shifted beside me. It's trying to get us to move, I know. How do we get out of here? I looked behind us. The passage was the same, endless, crooked, no clear way back, and the place we'd come through gone. No door, no gap, just wall. We go back the way we came, I said. We don't know where that is. We stay together, I said. We don't follow anything. We don't answer anything. We just keep moving. She nodded. Okay, we turned, away from the sound, and started walking. The passage didn't behave properly. That's the simplest way I can put it. We walked in a straight line, or what should have been a straight line, but the space shifted around us. Corners that hadn't been there before, walls that seemed to lean inward, then pull back. At one point, I was sure we turned left. Then a few steps later, we were facing the same scratch marks again. Don't listen. My stomach dropped. We've been here, I said. Becca shook her head. No, we walked straight. We didn't, I know, but the wall didn't lie. The same marks, the same deep grooves, the same uneven lines. We hadn't looped. The space had. That's not possible, she whispered. No, I said. It isn't. The music box shifted again. Now it sounded like it was behind us. We both turned instinctively. The passage stretched back into darkness, empty. But the sound, there, closer now. You hear that? Becca said. Yeah, it's moving. No, I said slowly. We are. That didn't make it better. We turned back again. Kept walking. Faster this time. The air grew heavier, harder to breathe. Like the walls were closing in, not physically, but pressing in. Every step felt like effort. Every breath shallow. Rowan, Becca said quietly, I don't like this. I know. Something brushed my shoulder, light, quick. I spun around, torch snapping back, nothing, empty space. But the air still moving, like something had just passed through, between us, again. It's in here, Becca whispered. Yeah. We didn't stop moving, didn't slow down, because stopping felt worse. Like if we stood still too long, we'd lose whatever little control we had left. Then a new sound, not the music, not the scratching, a voice. Becca. She flinched. That's not me, she said quickly. I know. Becca. It came from ahead this time, soft, careful, like it was testing each word before saying it. Don't answer, I said. I'm not. Are you there? The voice sounded almost right, almost, but there was something missing, something human. I realized what it was, emotion. It was copying the sound, not the feeling. Becca squeezed my arm. It's getting better. I didn't answer. Because she was right, we kept moving. The passage bent again, then widened slightly, just enough that the walls weren't pressing in as much. The air changed too, cooler, damp, and the smell stronger. Lavender, rot, and something else underneath, metallic. I raised the torch. The beam caught something ahead, a section of the passage that looked different, older, brick instead of plaster, dark, uneven. Do you see that? Becca whispered. Yeah. We approached slowly, carefully. The space opened up just enough to form a small chamber, low ceiling, rough brick walls, and in the center, objects. Scattered, small, personal. A toy soldier, a ribbon, a cracked teacup, things that didn't belong in a place like this, things that belonged to someone. My chest tightened. Elsie? I said quietly. Becca nodded. It took her stuff, she said, or she'd left it behind. Neither option felt better. I stepped closer, the torch beam moving over the objects. Then, I saw something else on the wall, more writing. But this time, different, not scratched, written, dark, thick, like it had been done with something wet. I stepped closer, read it. It is not just her. My stomach dropped. Another line beneath it. It wears what you know. Becca leaned in. What does that mean? I didn't answer, because I already understood, too well. The voices, the faces, the way it changed, the way it tested. It wasn't just copying, it was using everything we brought into that house, everything we knew, everything we trusted it could become. A soft sound came from behind us. We both turned. The passage, empty, but the air shifted again, closer now, too close. Becca grabbed my arm. Rowan? I know. The music box started again, right behind us, louder, clearer. The tune faster now, wrong, twisted, like it was trying to push us forward, into the chamber, into the space. I stepped back instinctively. No, I said, we don't stay here. But the floor felt wrong, soft, unstable, like it wasn't meant to be stood on. Becca pulled at my sleeve. Something's not right. I know. The torch flickered, once, twice, then steadied. And in that flicker, I saw it, just for a second. Something standing at the entrance to the chamber, tall, still, watching. The figure. I turned the torch fully. The space was empty, but I knew it had been there. I felt it, watching, waiting. The music stopped, dead. Silence dropped again, heavy, final. And then, a whisper. Right behind us. Don't go. Not Becca, not me. Something else, something deeper, something that hadn't spoken before. I felt my chest tighten, because it sounded like it was copying anymore. It sounded like it was remembering. And for the first time, I realized something worse than anything we'd seen so far. This thing, whatever it was, had been doing this for a long time, and it wasn't alone anymore. I don't know how long we stood there. Seconds, minutes. It didn't feel like time worked properly anymore. That whisper, don't go, it didn't echo. It didn't fade. It just sat there, like it had been placed in the air behind us and left to settle. Becca was gripping my arm hard enough to hurt. Rowan, she whispered, we need to get out. I know. But I didn't move, because something in me had changed. Not enough to take over, but enough. Enough to make me hesitate. Enough to make me listen. The chamber around us felt different now. Less like a dead space, more like something held together, like it had purpose. The objects scattered across the floor weren't random. They weren't just things left behind. They were collected, kept. I looked down at the badge in my hand. LCV cold, heavy, real. You still have that? Becca said, her voice tight. I nodded. I think this is what it meant. What? That I moved something, I said. Took something. Becca shook her head. So put it back. Drop it and we go. I didn't, because something didn't feel right about that either. Dropping it here didn't feel like putting it back. It felt like leaving it in the wrong place again. The whisper came again, closer this time. Down. I froze. Becca did too. Did you hear that? She asked. Yeah. Down. The word stretched slightly, not quite right, but clearer than before. The air shifted, a cold current moving through the chamber. From below, I frowned. Do you feel that? Becca nodded slowly. Yeah, where's that coming from? I lowered the torch. The beam swept across the floor, over the scattered objects, over the cracked boards beneath them. And then I saw it. A seam, faint, running across the center of the chamber, not part of the brick, not part of the original structure. Something added, something covering something else. Move back, I said quietly. What are you? Just move. She stepped away. I crouched, ran my hand along the edge. Wood, old, warped, a panel. My stomach dropped. This wasn't part of the house, I said. This was put here. To hide something? Becca asked. Or keep something in? That landed. We both went quiet. The whisper came again, stronger. Down. And this time, there was something else in it. Not just instruction, expectation. Like it already knew what we were about to do. Becca grabbed my arm. We don't have to open that. I looked at her. I think we do. Why? Because everything in this house leads here, I said. The voices, the walls, the things he wrote. I gestured toward the scratches behind us. This is what he was looking for. And look what happened to him, she snapped. I didn't answer, because she was right. But that didn't change anything. It's already got us this far, I said. If we leave now, it doesn't stop. That was the truth. We both knew it. Becca closed her eyes for a second, then nodded. Quick, she said. We open it, we look, then we go. Agreed. I slid my fingers under the edge of the panel. It didn't budge. "Help me," I said. She crouched beside me, both of us gripping the wood. "Ready?" "No." "Same." We pulled. At first, nothing. Then a crack. Loud, sharp. The panel shifted, dust falling from the edges. We pulled again, harder. The wood gave way with a splintering sound, lifting just enough for cold air to rush out from beneath it. I recoiled instinctively. The smell hit immediately. Damp, metallic, old. Not decay. Something worse. Something stagnant. Becca gagged slightly. "Jesus, what is that?" I didn't answer. I lifted the panel further. And then we saw it. A shaft, narrow, lined with old brick, dropping straight down into darkness. A well. My chest tightened. This isn't part of the house," Becca said. "No," I replied. "The house was built over it." The air rising from it was freezing. Wrong. It carried that same faint whispering sound, layered. Not one voice. Many. Too many. I raised the torch, shone it down. The beam cut into the darkness. Didn't reach the bottom, but it caught something. Movement. Halfway down. I squinted, trying to focus, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. And then it moved. Not falling, not rising, clinging to the side of the shaft, upside down. My breath caught in my throat. "Rowan," Becca whispered. "What is that?" I didn't answer because I couldn't. The shape shifted slowly, turning. The torch beam caught it fully. A small figure, child-sized, pale, its limbs bent at wrong angles, clinging to the brick like something that had never learned how to stand properly. Its head tilted, and then it looked up, directly at us. The face, too smooth, too stretched, like something had pulled it tight over the bones. And the eyes, too wide, too empty. It opened its mouth and smiled. Becca screamed. I dropped the torch, then grabbed it again immediately, heart slamming against my ribs. "Back," I said. "Back!" We stumbled away from the opening. The thing didn't move. It just watched, clinging there, upside down, like it had always been there, waiting. The whispers grew louder, not clearer, just louder, layered voices overlapping, some crying, some laughing, some calling names we didn't recognize, and one voice, right at the center of it all, soft, childlike, Rowan. My blood ran cold. That wasn't my voice. That wasn't Becca's. That was something else. Something new. It knew my name. "How does it know your name?" Becca whispered. "I don't know, but I did. Somewhere in the back of my mind, I knew. It had been listening, from the start, from the moment I stepped into that house. The figure in the well shifted again, slowly, unfolding slightly, like it was preparing to move. My chest tightened. "Close it," Becca said urgently. "Close it now." I nodded. We moved back toward the opening, carefully, keeping our eyes on it. The thing didn't rush us, didn't lunge. It just watched, like it knew we weren't going anywhere. I reached down, grabbed the edge of the panel, and that's when I saw it. At the base of the opening, half buried in dust, a small object, metal, familiar. I leaned closer, my stomach dropped. Another badge, same shape, same size, same engraving. LCV, Becca saw it too. "There's more than one?" I shook my head slowly. No, there weren't two. There were dozens, scattered, hidden, collected, each one identical, each one a copy. The whisper rose again, louder, stronger. Down, I felt it pull at me, stronger this time. Not just a thought, a force, a pressure, like gravity shifting, like the space itself was trying to tilt me toward it. Becca grabbed my arm. "Don't look at it, I'm not." But I was. I couldn't stop. The thing in the well smiled wider, and for a second, just a second, I understood something. Horrible, clear. This wasn't where it had been trapped. This was where it had been waiting, for someone to look down. Becca yanked me back hard. "Rowan," I stumbled, blinking. The pull snapped. Gone. I sucked in a breath. "What?" "Don't look," she snapped. "Just close it." I nodded quickly. We grabbed the panel, shoved it back into place. The moment it settled, the whispers cut off, dead. Silence slammed down, heavy, total. We stood there, breathing hard, staring at the wood. Nothing moved. Nothing followed. But I could still feel it underneath, waiting, listening. And as I stepped back, one thought settled in my head. Cold. Certain. This wasn't the end of it. We hadn't closed anything. We just covered it again. And whatever was down there had already seen us. We didn't speak for a while after we closed it. There wasn't anything to say. No explanation that made sense. No plan that felt right. Just the two of us standing in that cramped chamber, staring at a piece of wood that now felt thinner than paper, like it wasn't really covering anything at all. Becca was the first to move. "We're leaving," she said. Not loudly, not panicked. Just certain. I nodded. This time there was no argument in me. No hesitation. Whatever had been pulling me before, that quiet, creeping curiosity, that was gone, replaced by something much clearer. We needed to get out. Now. I adjusted my grip on the torch, forcing my hands to steady, and turned back toward the passage. "Stay close," I said. "Not going anywhere," she replied. We moved quickly, not running, but not slow either. Every instinct telling us not to linger, not to look back, not to listen. The passage twisted again, but this time it felt different, less resistant, like something had shifted, or maybe like we'd done something it wanted. That thought made my chest tighten. "Don't think about it," I muttered. "What?" Becca asked. "Nothing. Just keep moving." We reached the section with the scratched words again. "Don't listen." I didn't look at it this time. Didn't need to. I already understood. We kept going. The air grew lighter, fresher, and then a seam appeared in the wall ahead, faint, but there. I stepped forward, pressing my hand against it. The plaster gave slightly. "Here," I said. We pushed. The wall shifted, opened, and suddenly we were back in the house. The upstairs corridor, the nursery door behind us, the stairs ahead. I stumbled forward, nearly losing my balance as the space snapped back into something normal. Becca caught herself against the wall. "That wasn't there before." I know. The corridor looked the same as before. But now, I could see it. The wrongness. The slight misalignment of the walls. The way the shadows didn't sit properly in the corners. The way the air felt used. We didn't stop. We moved straight for the stairs, down, fast, not running, but close. Each step felt real again, solid, grounded. And when we reached the bottom, I felt something I hadn't felt since stepping into that house. Relief, just a flicker, but enough. "Door," Becca said. "I'm on it." We crossed the hallway together, reached for the handle, and it didn't move. My stomach dropped. "It's locked," I said. "That's not possible. We came in." "I know." I pulled harder. Nothing. The handle didn't budge. Becca stepped back. "Move." She grabbed it, yanked. Same result. The door stayed shut, solid, unmoving. Behind us, a sound, soft, measured, a footstep at the top of the stairs. We both froze. Slowly, we turned. The staircase stretched upward into shadow, and at the very top, it stood, the figure. The one without a face, taller now, or maybe closer, I couldn't tell. It didn't move, just stood there, watching. Becca whispered, "Rowan, I know." My heart pounded, but something in me had changed again. Not fear, not panic, something else, clarity. Because I understood now, this wasn't trying to chase us, it wasn't trying to attack, it was waiting for a choice. I reached into my pocket, pulled out the badge, LCV cold, heavy, real. Becca looked at me. "What are you doing?" "This," I said quietly. "This is why it won't let us go." "What?" "I took it," I said. "Or I took something like it. It thinks I did." "That doesn't mean." "It does," I cut in. "Everything it's done, it's been leading us back here, to that well." The figure shifted slightly. Not forward, not back, just reacting, listening. Becca's voice tightened. "So what? You're going to give it back?" "I'm going to finish it," I said. She stared at me. "What does that even mean?" I looked at the stairs, at the thing waiting at the top, then back at her. "It's not just copying," I said. "It's feeding on what we bring into the house, names, voices, memories. And it's been doing it for a long time," I said. "Long before us." Becca shook her head. "Rowan, we don't have time for this. That thing is right there." "I know," I said, and I did. Every part of me knew, but something else sat underneath that, something quieter, stronger. "If we just leave," I said, "it doesn't stop." Becca's expression hardened. "That's not our problem." "It will be," I said. That landed, because she knew it too. The voices, the way it learned, the way it copied. It wouldn't stay in that house forever, not if it kept getting better, not if it found a way. I took a breath, steady, controlled. "I'm going back down," I said. Her eyes widened. "Are you serious?" "I have to." "No, you don't," she snapped. "We can find another way. Call someone, burn the place down, anything but that." "That thing's already inside the walls," I said. "Burning it won't stop it." The figure took a step. Down the stairs. Slow, deliberate. Becca grabbed my arm. "Rowan, please." I looked at her, really looked. And for a second, I almost stopped, almost let it go, almost walked out. But then I heard it, faint, from somewhere deep in the house. A voice, small, weak. "Please." Not the mimic, not the thing. Something else, something real. Or something that had been. I swallowed. "I have to know," I said quietly. Becca's grip tightened. Then slowly, she let go. "I'm not leaving you," she said. I nodded. "Then stay close." We went back, down, through the kitchen, into the hidden passage. This time it didn't twist, didn't fight us. It opened, clear, straight, like it was letting us through. That was worse. We reached the chamber again. The panel, still in place, still thin, still wrong. The whisper started the moment we stepped closer. Soft, layered, expectant. I crouched, pulled the panel back. The well opened beneath us, dark, endless, waiting. The thing was still there, clinging to the side, watching, smiling. I swallowed. Then I dropped the badge. It fell, spinning, disappearing into the darkness. The whisper surged, louder, faster. The thing in the well twitched, reacted. For the first time, it moved toward us, unfolding, climbing, fast. Becca shouted, "Rowan!" "Now!" I snapped. I grabbed the old lantern sitting against the wall, something I hadn't noticed before, rusted but still half full. I struck the lighter. Flame caught. I didn't hesitate. I threw it, down into the well. For a second, nothing. Then, fire. A sudden, violent bloom of light and heat. The shaft roared alive, flames racing upward. The thing screamed. Not a human sound. Not anything I can describe properly. High, layered, like multiple voices tearing at once. The walls shook. The chamber trembled. The whispers turned to shrieks. Becca grabbed my arm. "We need to go." "I know." We slammed the panel shut. The fire roared beneath it. The sound didn't stop. It followed us. Up through the passage. Through the walls. Through the house. We ran. No hesitation now. No slowing. The corridor snapped back into place as we burst through. The figure on the stairs, gone. The front door, open. We didn't stop. We ran straight through it. Out into the cold air. Onto the path. Away from the house. Behind us, Blackthorn House shuddered. A deep cracking sound splitting through the structure. The windows blew outward. The roof sagged. And from inside, that scream. Still rising. Still breaking. Until it stopped. Suddenly. Completely, silence fell, heavy, final. We stood there, breathless, staring at what was left of the house. It didn't collapse completely, but something inside it had. Something that had been holding it together. And as the smoke drifted upward into the gray sky, I realized something. We hadn't destroyed it, not entirely. We just changed it. And whatever had been down there wasn't gone. It was just quiet now. No one asked too many questions. That was the strangest part. When the fire brigade finally arrived, called in by someone further down the village who'd seen the smoke, they treated it like any other structural incident. Old house, faulty wiring, years of neglect, easy explanations, neat ones. We stood there while they worked, wrapped in borrowed blankets, answering the same questions in the same careful way. "When did you first notice the fire? Was anyone else inside? Any gas appliances?" We gave them what they needed. Nothing more. No one asked about the well. No one asked about the voices. And no one, not Maggie, not Owen, not a single person from that village came near the house while it burned. They stayed back, watching, quiet, like they'd seen something like it before, or like they'd been waiting for it. By the time it was over, Blackthorn House wasn't gone, not completely. The front still stood, charred, broken, but standing. The roof had partially collapsed, the upstairs windows blown out, the inside blackened, hollowed, but not destroyed, not the way I'd expected, not the way I'd hoped. I remember standing there staring at it thinking, that's not finished. Becca must have felt it too, because she said, quietly, "It doesn't feel over." "No," I replied, "it didn't." It felt paused. We left that evening, didn't stay the night, didn't go back for anything else. Whatever I'd brought into that house, I didn't care about it anymore. Tools could be replaced, everything else wasn't worth it. Moss didn't look back once as we drove away, not once. That stuck with me. Because he had before, when we'd been outside the house, he'd kept checking, watching. Now, nothing, just forward. Like whatever had been there, wasn't there anymore. Or wasn't there anymore. For a while, things went quiet, properly quiet. The kind of quiet that almost convinces you it's over. Becca went back to her flat. I went back to Leeds. Work picked up again, normal life, normal routines. And for the first few days, I slept, deep, heavy, no dreams, no interruptions, nothing. I started to think, maybe we had ended it. Maybe whatever was in that house had been tied to that place, to that well, to those walls. And when we burned it, maybe that was enough. But then, the little thing started. It was small at first, so small I almost ignored it. The smell, lavender, faint, in places it shouldn't be. In my flat, in the van, at work, not strong, not constant, just there. Every now and then I told myself it was nothing, memory, something lingering in my head. That happens. You go through something intense, your brain holds on to pieces, replays them. That's normal. I kept telling myself that. Then the noises started. It was late, first time it happened. Around 2 in the morning, I was lying in bed, half asleep, half not, and I heard it, a soft creak. From the hallway, I opened my eyes, listened. Nothing, just the usual sounds. Pipes, floor settling. I almost laughed. You're doing this to yourself. I turned over, closed my eyes again, and then, knock. 3 times, slow, measured, from the other side of my bedroom door. My heart stopped, just for a second, then started again, hard, fast. I stared at the door, didn't move, didn't speak, just listened. Nothing. Silence. Long enough that I started to think. Maybe it hadn't happened. Maybe I'd imagined it. Then the handle twitched, slightly, just enough to move. I sat up, breathing shallow, staring, waiting. It didn't open. It didn't move again. After a minute, 2, 3, nothing. Eventually, I got up, walked to the door, slowly, carefully, and opened it. The hallway was empty. Of course it was. It always is. I didn't tell Becca straight away, didn't want to worry her, didn't want to make it real. But then she called me a few days later, and the moment I heard her voice, I knew. "You've had something," I said. She was quiet for a second, then, "Yeah? What?" She exhaled slowly. "Cupboards," she said. "Kitchen." They all opened at once. My chest tightened. "And?" I asked. "And nothing," she said. "They just opened, then stopped." I paused, and I smelled it too. "Lavender," I said. "Yeah." Silence stretched between us. Heavy. Familiar. "It followed us," she said finally. I didn't answer, because I already knew. It didn't come every day. Not like before. Not constant. Just moments. Little things. A sound where there shouldn't be one. A smell that lingers too long. A door that isn't quite where you left it. And sometimes late at night, a voice. Soft. Careful. Trying. Rowan? Not quite right. Not yet. But closer. Each time, closer. The worst part isn't the noise or the smell or even the voice. It's the waiting. Because now I understand something I didn't before. It doesn't need the house anymore. That was just where it learned, where it practiced, where it figured out how to sound right, how to move right, how to make you listen. And now it's out. Not fully, not completely, but enough. Enough to follow, enough to try, enough to learn. And the longer it listens, the better it gets. I haven't answered it. Not once. No matter how right it sounds, no matter how close it gets. Because I remember what Owen said, don't answer anything. And more than that, I remember the well, the way it waited, the way it watched, the way it smiled when I looked down. That wasn't the end of it. That was the beginning. Sometimes, late at night, I hear it outside my flat, not knocking, not yet, just standing there, waiting, learning. And every now and then, when it thinks I'm close enough, it tries again. Hello? My voice, almost perfect now, almost. And one day I know it's going to get it exactly right. And when it does, I don't know if I'll be able to tell the difference. And that's the part that keeps me awake. Because whatever was in that house, whatever was in that well, it didn't just want to be heard. It wanted to be believed. And once it is, that's when it gets in. If this story stirred something within you, be it a flicker of unease, curiosity, or deep reflection, please leave a comment and share your thoughts. What do you think is truly going on? Have you ever experienced a sense of uncanny familiarity like that before? If you have similar stories of your own, don't hesitate to share them. Who knows? Maybe we are all touching upon the same hidden frequency. And if you want to keep exploring these dramatic, mysterious, and multi-layered tales, please hit the like button to support the channel and subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming chapters. Wishing you a truly peaceful night, where everything is still in the gentlest way, and may there always be a spark of warm light somewhere, waiting for you to find it.